What is the most unexplainable thing that ever happened to you? When I was around 15, my parents left me home alone for the weekend, Friday night to Sunday later afternoon, and I was thinking, this is awesome. I can chill, play games all weekend, and eat what I want. Went to sleep Friday night, and then woke up to my mum waking me up to what I thought was the next morning. So I asked, what happened? I thought you were going out the whole weekend. To which she replied, what are you talking about? It's 4 PM Sunday. I have no idea what happened to those 2 days. I didn't leave the house. There was no food or washing up that had changed since they left. I hadn't looked at my phone. There were unread messages from Saturday morning. But I refused to believe I was asleep the whole time. Every other Saturday I threw up all over my bed. It happened too much, I started sleeping with a bucket and woke up like it was just a chore. Oh, just gotta get this done real quick, and went on normally. That time I fell into a glass door and the only thing that broke was the keys in my pocket. I was walking to my friend's house one summer, maybe 10 or 11 years old. Anyways, sunny day, couple clouds but otherwise it's bright out. Perfect visibility, when a perfectly rectangular shadow comes up from the direction behind me on the ground, maybe 15 foot x 30 in size, traveling just faster than a car probably would be, and goes over top of me. I'm looking at the shape on the ground as it goes over, and when I do look up to the sky I don't see anything that could have possibly cast it. Even the clouds were just trailing little wisps. I looked back down, and it was going over some houses, and then it was gone forever. So yeah, weirdest thing was a mystery rectangle shadow. I was watching my parents' house while they were out of town. No dogs, nobody in the house except me. One night was just cleaning up the kitchen after dinner, and I should note that the house is quite large and rather creepy when you've got it all to yourself. Their bedroom is directly above the kitchen, and I very distinctly heard footsteps start from the walk-in closet, go through the bathroom, into their bedroom, and out into the hall. The squeaky board just outside their door made the squeak, just as if somebody stepped on it. And that was it. Pure silence. I grabbed the biggest knife out of the kitchen drawer and went to investigate. Nope. I was still totally alone. There is no way for anybody to access that part of the house without going past the kitchen and up the stairs first. I didn't sleep well at all that night and even get chills typing this. I once dreamt my father died in his car. Not even in a crash. In my dream I found his car on the side of the road with him dead behind the wheel. When I woke up from it in the middle of the night, my little brother, who was 3 years old at the time, was crying. My mom and 2 sisters woke up as well. Maybe it was because of my brother or maybe it was something else. When we woke up the morning after, my dad still wasn't home. Later the police came by to tell us that my dad had died in a car crash that same night. A few months later, in a dream, I saw my brother drown. I've never been so afraid for someone as the days following that dream. Luckily he grew up to be a young man who learned to swim. I guess it was a coincidence, but when I was little I used to go outside in the mornings to pet a cat that lived under my home. I used to play with her every day. One night I had a dream that she died, so I woke up distraught, went out to our usual place, and I called out for her. She never came out, and I never saw her again since the dream. Not me but my parents. In the place they used to live in, there was this old couch. My mom sometimes would walk by in the middle of the night and see a silhouette sitting there. She describes it as a man, sitting down, with a hat on, just sitting there. She saw it several times, but thought nothing of it. Damn, she's brave Mayo. She never told my dad, who one day said to her, it's weird, but sometimes in the middle of the night I think I see a man sitting down on the couch doing nothing. So yeah, they both saw the same man sitting on this couch, and they told each other after they'd both seen it. Weird. Was hanging out with my friend while we were roommates, and something came up about ships in bottles. He insisted that I talked about ships in bottles frequently for several months before that point, but I honestly don't recall talking or even thinking about them really ever. His girlfriend even backed him up. I call it ship in a bottle syndrome. When my daughter was about 18 months old, her grandmother passed away. That evening, I put my daughter to bed as normal, but instead of going to sleep pretty quickly as she usually did, she spent over an hour giggling and squealing with laughter. When I went to check on her, she was staring at an empty chair in her room, laughing as if she was watching the funniest thing ever. This carried on every night until the day of her grandmother's funeral. I didn't personally witness this, but at the time my family was sufficiently freaked out by it, and it was talked about a lot. One morning, my autistic brother went into my parents' room at like 3 AM. He woke them up to tell them that his grandmother was very old and was going to die. They got a call later that day that she indeed died in her sleep that night. But he's autistic and significantly disabled, so it's not like we could just ask him how he knew that or why he said it. He did a lot of other weird psychic shit over the years, but that was the spookiest one. I started having a panic attack one night out of nowhere. I kept repeating something's wrong. I do have anxiety, but had only had one other panic attack before this day. My husband sat on the bed with me, and we tried to figure out what had triggered this. The only thing we could think of is that a family member of mine was going on a trip the next day and maybe that was making me nervous. So I made up a weird excuse to drop off coffee before they left super early the next morning. When I saw them, I felt fine. I immediately knew it wasn't connected, wished them well, and drove home. About an hour later, I get a call that a person in my family on the other side of the country died by suicide the night before. Not totally unexplainable, and can just call it coincidence if you don't believe in sorcery. When I was in kindergarten or maybe first grade, we had a blackout at my school, and this kid goes, "Wait, I'll light a match," and proceeded to pretend to light an invisible match and the lights came back on, and we cheered for him. Then he said, "Oh, it's too hot," and he blew it out. Then the lights went back out. Wizardry. Years ago, my buddy and a friend of his are out in the Bobonies, lighting off fireworks for the 4th of July. We go out to the cars to light the stick for igniting the fireworks. As my buddy's buddy is in the car doing so, I look up at all the stars, completely unused to seeing so many. As I'm looking, something just feels off. I finally pinpoint it and start squinting my eyes, looking away and back. Everything I can think of to make sure that I'm seeing what I think I'm seeing. It's one point of light absolutely identical to the stars around it, except for one weirdness. It's doing a steady, repeating figure 8. I turn to my buddy to ask him about it, and I see him staring at the same area of sky. So I ask him, "Do you see what I see?" I hadn't said a word about what I saw, but he answered back, "A star doing a figure 8. I've tried to explain it by any logical means over the years, but nothing quite matches up, and I refuse to accept that a figure 8 in space is the alien teenager version of doing donuts in a parking lot." When I was about 10 years old, I woke up and had no recollection of the day before. I told my little brother, and he said he had the same problem. I however didn't believe him, because he was 8 and thought it was funny where I was mildly concerned. I think he thought it was a game, and we were playing some pretend game. This of course made my folks think it was a game and no one took me seriously. All I wanted was for someone to tell me something about yesterday, to jog my memory, but no one did. Still have no idea what happened. That was over 30 years ago, and I'm the only one who remembers not remembering. At a lunch table in high school, I exasperatedly put my head down and had a thought in the form of a question. My best friend a few seats down responded to my question and everyone looked at her. I asked if I said it out loud and everyone agreed I had said nothing. It was weird. We've been friends since 7th grade. I was more at her wedding and was in the room with her and her husband when she gave birth to her daughter. We still make jokes about that time she read my mind in high school, lol. Was home alone with my sister, who was about 3 at the time. She's sleeping in my room and I walk out to go to the bathroom. No one else is in the house, but as I'm in there handling business, I start hearing the chairs moving in the kitchen. I come out of the restroom and look to my left where I find the dining table chair moved and placed perfectly, staring down the hallway. Go back to check on my sister and she's still sleeping. Walk around the house to see if my parents were home and nothing. Doors and windows were shut. No way. Wind cold pushed this chair 5 feet and turned it to face down the hall. During this time I was constantly being woken up at 3 AM almost every night and felt a cold hand placed on my left pec over my heart. Spooky shit. My boyfriend and I were downstairs in the kitchen making dinner. Only two in the house. I went upstairs to get something, and a shoe came flying at me from the top of the stairs. Went right over my shoulder. I had no pets. Had BF check it out and nothing was unusual or different. Had to dodge that shoe, it was totally launched at me. I guessed about 25 times on a multiple choice test. Got a 100%. Even if I was able to narrow it down to only 2 choices each, that's a 1 in 33,554,432 chance.